At 24, Carla Bruni was in bed with a Rolling Stone while his wife cried in London. At 33, she was pregnant with a philosopher's baby after stealing him from his father. At 40, she was shaking hands with Queen Elizabeth as France's First Lady. The transformation should have been impossible.
I thought marriage was something very quiet and very regular and very bourgeois, but I don't think it is at all.
Models don't become First Ladies. Homewreckers don't host state dinners. Women who say monogamy bores me terribly don't marry presidents.
Especially with Nicolas, is full of adventure and full of fun.
But Carla Bruni did. In 80 days, she went from fashion's most scandalous woman to living in the Élysée Palace. This is the story of how she pulled it off and how it all came crashing down. Turin, Italy, 1967. Carla Gilberta Bruni arrives in a world of concert halls and private planes. Her mother Marisa plays piano in grand salons. Her father Alberto composes symphonies between board meeting at the tire company that funds their fairy tale life. They live in a 19th century Piedmont castle. Not a metaphorical castle, an actual castle with towers and grounds and rooms full of ancestors' portraits. Little Carla grows up thinking this is normal. Morning piano lessons, afternoon art history, evening concerts where she must sit perfectly still in miniature designer dresses. She has everything: tutors, horses, closets full of clothes from Milan, a sister, Valeria, who dreams of acting, a brother, Virginio, gentle and artistic, parents who expect greatness because in their world, anything less is failure. 1975. Carla is 7 when her parents make the decision. They're leaving. Not for a vacation, not temporarily. Leaving Italy, leaving the castle, leaving everything. Her father can run the company from France. Carla goes to Swiss boarding school. She learns French until her Italian has a French accent. She learns to be whoever she needs to be to fit in. The 7-year-old girl who left Italy wasn't the same one who arrived in France. She was already becoming someone else, someone who could adapt, survive, transform. Paris, 1987. Carla is 19, studying architecture at university. She's supposed to be designing buildings. Instead, she's sitting in a modeling agency office, looking at her own face in a portfolio. She didn't plan this. A scout spotted her, offered a contract, and suddenly, architecture seemed very boring compared to magazine covers. Her parents weren't thrilled. You don't flee one country and build a fortune just so your daughter can pose for pictures. But Carla had already learned not to ask permission. City Models signs her immediately. Within months, she's in a Guess Jeans campaign shot by Paul Marciano. The photos are everywhere. This Italian girl with aristocratic bones and eyes that dare you to look away. The fashion world loses its mind. Versace books her, then Chanel, then Dior. She's walking for Saint Laurent, for Lagerfeld, for everyone who matters. By 1990, she's a supermodel, though she hates that word. I was bored most of the time, she'd tell journalists later. Bored while earning millions. Bored while wearing couture. Bored while photographers screamed her name. She'd show up to shoots with poetry books. Between takes for Italian Vogue, she'd read Baudelaire. Photographers found it pretentious. Carla found fashion pretentious. It was a standoff she always won because when the camera turned on, she transformed. By 1995, she's earning $7.5 million a year. She owns apartments in Paris and New York. She dates who she wants: actors, musicians, intellectuals. The press calls her the Italian man-eater, which makes her laugh. 1997. She's 30 years old and over it. Just done. At the peak of her earning power, at the height of her fame, she quits. No farewell tour, no big announcement. She just stops showing up. The fashion world is shocked. Models don't quit at the top. They fade out, get replaced by younger faces, write bitter memoirs. They don't walk away while magazines are still begging. But Carla had been walking away from things her whole life. From Italy, from university, now from modeling. She'd learned early that leaving first means you're the one in control. "I have other things to do," she told her agent. "Like what?" they asked. She didn't answer. She was already becoming someone else. Let's circle back a couple years. London, 1990. A party in someone's Chelsea townhouse. Eric Clapton has his arm around his girlfriend, Carla. They make a striking couple, the guitar god and the supermodel. He's besotted with her, anyone can see it. She likes him too, or at least she likes the way he looks at her. Mick Jagger walks in. Clapton, trying to be friendly, makes introductions. Mick, meet Carla. Clapton would later write that he immediately sensed danger. He knew Mick, knew how he operated. Please, he actually said to Jagger that night, keep your distance. Jagger smiled. Carla smiled. Clapton's relationship was already over. He just didn't know it yet. Within days, Carla and Mick were meeting secretly. He was 48, married to Jerry Hall, had 4 kids. She was 23, supposedly dating Clapton, supposed to care about consequences. She didn't. The affair was electric and reckless. They'd meet at hotels, at friends' flats, anywhere Jerry wouldn't find out. Except Jerry did find out. Wives always do. I cried myself inside out, Hall would tell reporters years later. She'd found evidence, a note, a receipt, something that confirmed what everyone in their circle already whispered about. Mick was sleeping with Clapton's girlfriend. The British tabloids got wind of it. Suddenly, Carla's face was everywhere, but not for fashion. She was the other woman, the homewrecker, the model who stole a Rolling Stone. The strangest part? When reporters asked Carla about it, she'd deny everything with this little smile. Mick Jagger? He's a fossil. His wife can keep him. But then she'd show up in places Mick happened to be. Thailand, 1992. Jerry had just given birth to their daughter, Georgia May. The cruelty of that timing still shocks. Your wife has just delivered your child, and you're on another continent with your mistress. Even rock stars usually have more discretion. The affair continued on and off for years. Mick would promise Jerry it was over, then Carla would appear backstage at a Stones concert. Jerry would issue ultimatums, then find Carla's number in Mick's phone. By 1999, the Jagger marriage was over. Not just because of Carla. Mick had gotten another woman pregnant by then, but Carla had started the unraveling. She'd walked into that Chelsea party on Clapton's arm and walked out having destroyed 2 relationships. The British press branded her a man-eater and homewrecker. In France, they were more amused. This beautiful girl who could have anyone chose married rock stars. How very French, even if she was Italian. But Carla? She moved on to the next chapter. The next man, next transformation. She'd later claim the whole thing was overblown. That Mick had 10 other women during their time together. That marriages don't end because of affairs. They end because they're already broken. Paris, 2000. Carla is dating Jean-Paul Enthoven, a respected publisher. He's intellectual, established, exactly the kind of man you'd expect her to choose after the rock star chaos. They attend gallery openings, literary salons, the kind of events where people discuss Sartre over champagne. But at one of these gatherings, Carla meets Jean-Paul's son, Raphael Enthoven, philosophy professor, married to Justine Lévy, daughter of celebrity philosopher Bernard-Henri Lévy. He's brilliant, young, and 10 years younger than Carla. The details of what happened next depend on who's telling the story. Carla says she was never really with Jean-Paul, that Raphael's marriage was already ending. Others say she deliberately seduced the son while dating the father. The truth doesn't matter as much as the result. Raphael leaves his wife for Carla, just walks out of his marriage to be with his father's girlfriend. 2001. Carla gives birth to Raphael's son, Aurélien. She's 33, finally a mother, finally settled, she thinks. But Justine Lévy isn't done. The abandoned wife channels her rage into literature. Her 2004 novel, Rien de Grave, features a character who's obviously Carla, a model who steals husbands, described as a praying mantis with a Terminator smile. The book becomes a bestseller. Everyone in Paris reads it, discusses it, takes sides. The mantis, the Terminator. These images stick to Carla like designer labels she can't remove. Even Carla's own sister Valeria gets quoted in the press. When my sister wants someone, she takes him. The relationship with Raphael lasts 6 years. They live quietly, raise their son, pretend the scandal never happened. But it's always there. Every dinner party, every school event, Someone's thinking about the book, the mantis, the woman who takes what she wants. When they finally separate in 2007, it's almost anticlimactic. No drama, no scandal, just two people admitting it's over. Raphael would later say they parted as friends, that Carla was a wonderful mother. November 13, 2007, a dinner party at advertising executive Jacques Seguela's home. Carla almost didn't come. She's been single since Raphael, focused on her music, her son, but her friend insisted. Nicolas Sarkozy is there, the president of France, freshly divorced, obviously lonely. He's 52, short, kinetic energy in an expensive suit. Not her type at all. But he won't stop looking at her, won't stop talking to her. By dessert, he's leaning in, telling her she's beautiful, asking for her number. The other guests pretend not to notice the president of France hitting on Carla Bruni. She gives him her number. Why not? She's dated rock stars and philosophers. Why not a president? The next day, he calls. The day after, he sends flowers. Within a week, they're having dinner at the Élysée Palace. Just the two of them in that massive dining room, security outside, the weight of France literally surrounding them. "I'm going to marry you," he tells her on their third date. "Don't be ridiculous," she says. But Nicolas Sarkozy didn't become president by accepting rejection. He pursues her like a political campaign, calls constantly, sends his plane to fetch her, takes her to Disneyland Paris of all places, like they're teenagers instead of middle-aged. The press goes insane. Photos of them at Disneyland surface. His approval ratings plummet. Editorial writers clutch their pearls. This is not how French presidents behave. December. They've known each other 5 weeks. He proposes. Actually gets on his knee in the palace and proposes. She says yes because at this point, why not? She's been a model, a singer, a muse. Why not a first lady? February 2nd, 2008. They marry at the Élysée Palace. Tiny ceremony. 80 days after they met. The press does the math obsessively. 80 days. Not even 3 months. Too fast, the editorials declare. Too flashy. One poll shows 55% of French voters think Sarkozy is using Carla to boost his image. Another shows his approval rating at its lowest point ever. The woman who told Le Figaro, "Monogamy bores me terribly," is now married to the president. The woman who destroyed marriages is now wearing a wedding ring. The ironies pile up like designer shoes in her closet. But here's what the press missed in their rush to judgment. Carla was already transforming again. The morning after the wedding, she appears in a conservative suit, hair pulled back, minimal jewelry. She's studying the role like she once studied poses. First Lady, another character to play, another identity to master. Her first test comes immediately. State dinner, foreign dignitaries, protocols she's never learned. She watches everything, absorbs it all. Which fork, which smile, which topics to avoid. It's like being an employee, she'd later tell interviewers. But she'd been an employee before. She'd been paid to be beautiful, to wear clothes, to represent brands. This was just another contract. Bigger stage, same game. The French public remains skeptical. This model who slept with Mick Jagger representing France? This woman who stole philosophers from their wives standing beside their president? They're about to learn what Carla learned at 7 years old. Identity is flexible, and she's about to give the performance of her life. March 26, 2008. The Sarkozy's plane touches down at Heathrow, first state visit to Britain. The press is circling like sharks. They remember Carla from the Jagger years. The homewrecker returns as France's first lady. The headlines write themselves. Carla steps off the plane in Dior. Not just any Dior, a gray coat dress that whispers elegance, paired with a pillbox hat that makes every British fashion editor think of Jackie Kennedy. This is not the Carla who wore leather pants to parties. This is someone new. The schedule is brutal. Banquet with the Queen, speech to Parliament, state dinner at Windsor Castle. Every moment photographed, every gesture analyzed. One wrong move and she confirms what everyone suspects, that she's not fit for this role. The banquet arrives. Carla approaches Queen Elizabeth. The protocol is clear. Small curtsy, brief handshake. wait to be addressed, but Carla does something unexpected. She drops into a deep, perfect curtsy, the kind they teach at Swiss finishing schools. The Queen actually smiles. British photographers can't believe it. They'd come to document disaster. Instead, they're watching Carla Bruni charm the British royal family. She speaks to Prince Philip about jazz. She discusses architecture with Prince Charles. The Daily Mail, which had savaged her during the Jagger years, runs 17 photos of her. The Queen gets 3. Headlines scream, "Sarkozy's wife steals the show." Carla charms Britain. One paper asks if she's the new Princess Diana. The transformation is complete. In 3 days, Carla has rewritten her story in British consciousness. She's no longer the other woman. She's an elegant first lady who honors their queen and charms their ministers. French newspapers, watching from across the channel, are forced to reconsider. If the British, masters of protocol, keepers of propriety, approve of Carla, maybe France has been too harsh. Maybe their new first lady isn't an embarrassment. Maybe she's an asset. The photos from that visit become iconic. Carla in her pillbox hat, Carla curtsying, Carla making the Queen smile. She frames none of them. Doesn't need to. She knows what she's accomplished. Years later, she'd admit the terror of that trip. "I practiced the curtsy for hours. I was so afraid of doing it wrong. But in the moment, she looked born to it." Another role mastered, another transformation complete. The years pass in a blur of state dinners and charity galas. Carla masters the First Lady role like she once mastered the runway. AIDS advocacy for her brother who died in 2006. A foundation for education and culture. Carefully chosen causes. Carefully managed image. By 2010, 2/3 of France approves of her. The transformation from scandal to respectability seems complete. She has another child with Nicolas, a daughter named Julia. She releases albums between state visits. She's found a balance, but the past never really leaves. Old nude photos surface during diplomatic trips. False rumors of affairs circulate in 2010, so vicious that Nicolas allegedly uses security services to trace their source. The nickname Scandal Magnet still clings, even in Dior Couture. 2012. Nicolas loses the presidency. They leave the Élysée Palace, and suddenly Carla is just Carla again. Not the First Lady, not the president's wife, just a former supermodel in her 40s with a complicated past and an uncertain future. She returns to music, models occasionally, walks for Versace in 2017 alongside Naomi Campbell, a reunion of the supermodel era. In 2024, at 56, she appears in the Victoria's Secret show, still commanding attention, still transforming. But Nicolas's past won't stay buried. Investigations into his presidency multiply. Campaign finance violations, allegations of Libyan money, witness tampering. The legal maze grows more complex each year. Carla stands by him. The woman who once said monogamy bored her has now been married 16 years. She appears at his court dates, holds his hand for photographers, plays the loyal wife with the same perfection she once played the seductress. Until July 2024, when the investigations reach her. The charges are serious: witness tampering, possible bribery, conspiracy to obstruct justice. Prosecutors claim she pressured witnesses in Nicolas's case, that she participated in schemes to silence testimony, that the former First Lady became a criminal to protect her husband. She arrives at court in Dior. Of course, some things never change, but everything else has. The woman who transformed from model to muse to First Lady now transforms once more into a defendant. The photographers shout her name like they did on runways. But this isn't Fashion Week. This is criminal court. The first French First Lady ever charged with a crime. Another transformation, though surely not one she planned. She doesn't speak to the press, doesn't smile, just walks past in her designer clothes and perfect posture, playing this new role with the same discipline she brought to all the others. Inside the courthouse, they read the charges, the specific allegations, the potential penalties. She listens with the same expression she wore meeting the Queen, composed, controlled, giving nothing away. Her lawyer speaks of malicious prosecution, of a woman targeted for her loyalty, of evidence that will exonerate, standard legal language that sounds hollow in the grand courtroom. The hearing ends. She exits through the same doors she entered. The photographers surge again. The questions fly. She says nothing, enters the waiting car, disappears behind tinted glass. The story that began with a 7-year-old fleeing in the night continues. Where it ends, nobody knows. Not the prosecutors, not the press, not even Carla herself. But she'll face it in designer clothes. That much is certain. Some armor never changes, even when everything else does. Even when the fairy tale becomes a crime story. Even when the transformation you never wanted chooses you.